Yo, what's good YouTube? It's boardzy, and this is going to be the truth about glass mouse pads, at least my truth. As many of you know, I used exclusively glass mouse pads from November 8th through the 22nd. And yeah, since then I've been using cloth and glass interchangeably, so I feel like I can just give a balanced take on the pros and cons. After that, I will be doing a roundup of some of the pads I use. I'm going to be talking about just the best mouse skates for glass, what different skates offer, and I just will say, starting this off, the Obsidian Air Pro skates from X-Ray Pad are the most controlled. Like, they can turn any speed glass pad, whether it be the Beast, the Skypad 4.0, anything. It will just add so much dynamic friction and like increase your stability on the glass surface. But it really, at that point, I'm just wondering, like, why am I not using a cloth pad with just some standard PTFE skates where I can get the same level of control? One thing that is huge for me in this cloth versus glass debate is the plushness. The aspect of pressing in to a cloth pad is something I'm really accustomed to, and just having a completely hard surface, it really just kills a lot of the joy of using a mouse to me. And that sounds bizarre because it's not performance focused, but in my 2-week experiment, I played like 6 hours of Kovacs. Like, I just don't even want to fucking use the mouse. It's just so dull and dry. So this is a weird opinion that I bet a lot of glass lovers aren't going to have. But like, when I just use a cloth pad, I'm like, wow, this is natural, this is right. But performance-wise, it's not like I become this headless chicken who just cannot aim when I use a glass mouse pad. I can still perform well, but it's just a matter of comfort and preference, and it is ingrained in my mind. These 2 weeks could not change it, that a cloth textile is just more comfortable. It is superior for me personally. But at the same time, new glass pads do address a lot of the issues I used to have with them, and I was able to appreciate a few aspects. And one area where I will just give a point to glass is the fact that these do last forever. Are they absolutely perfect and consistent at all times in all situations and circumstances? No, but over a long-term period, they will maintain their glide better than cloth. There's really no denying that. And that's something I don't really experience with cloth. Because I have hundreds of mouse pads, I sold 40 the other week. Like, most people shouldn't even go through 40 in their lifetime. If a pad just starts to like feel worse, I can just swap to a new one. So yes, that is a privilege I have. If you do just want to buy one mouse pad forever, I would take advantage of the Black Friday sale going on right now and grab a Skypad 3.0 or 4.0, depending on your budget. That's simply, it's the best decision. But yeah, I don't know how many people are looking to do that, and it's worth considering. You can get 2 artisan pads shipped to the US for around $100. And if you were to order an artisan Hien and a Type 99, for example, you are just going to get so drastically different experiences that really glass can't provide. Like, glass is different from cloth, but glass versus glass, it really all boils down to it's a similar style. You can accommodate for a lot of things with mouse skates and just mouse weight in general. So I just get bored like swapping between glass. Some pads are more controllable, sure. Some are just very slippery and quick, like the Beast. And some, like the Pulsar Super Glide 2, are very good. I'd say like 90% of the way there, but there's just a bit too much arm sticking. And yeah, that's another thing with me for glass pads. I refuse to use a sleeve. Is it out of spite? Is it because I don't enjoy it? It's probably a mix. I'm fine with using like just a sleeve of a shirt, for example, but I'm not putting on a gaming sleeve. I don't care. And over the 2 weeks, I feel like my skin kind of did adapt to some of these surfaces. The Skypad 4.0 was the one I was using the most, and it became fine. So I think you don't really need a sleeve. It will depend on your skin type. And one thing with using sleeves, maybe it's because of the insane amount of arm hair I have, but like my wrist just becomes like clammier, and like my mouse always gets more like sweat on it, so I just don't want to fucking use a sleeve. And I don't have to, which is the beautiful part. But yeah, the 2 pads I can really give the lack of arm stick seal of approval to are the Beast and the Skypad 4.0. The Beast, the texture will come back on a pad called the Guardian, which I actually like because, as I mentioned, it's just one of the more slippery, quicker pads. Of course, with glass, the initial friction just has a capacity to be like infinitely lower than it does even on the quickest cloth pads. So that is one thing that when a glass pad has high initial friction, I'm just like, what are we doing here? Between the Beast and the SkyPad 4.0, there is something just a little bit more frosted about the texture on the SkyPad 4.0. I know the Beast does have a coating, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not one of these coatings that's going to wear down like the term is associated with cloth mouse pads, and that's something I really wanted to monitor. It's why I kind of delayed making this video. I wanted to see if the arm sticking would increase with this pad, and it honestly hasn't. One weird thing I noticed, I feel like it retains heat from my forearm more than any other glass pad. I don't have any other way to test that, but I wouldn't say it if I didn't think it. There's two other aspects of glass that I think have greatly improved with the more recent releases. One of those is surface thickness. I don't think we really need to do like a phallus measuring contest for who can make the thinnest mouse pad. I think sub 3mm thickness is all the same, but originally on the SkyPad 2.0 mainly, going back many years, I mean, that was just like a thick slab of glass. It just didn't really feel good. But nowadays, these are so thin, it doesn't really feel like there's any indent being made on your arm, let's say. And the edges are nice. But the aspect that I really like that has kind of been quietly improved is there's not as much like dust issues or surface sticking as there once was. In some cases, like if you have a PTFE, a larger skate, and there's something in the skate, you're going to get like a loud scraping sound. But just in general, pads are a lot quieter, surfaces are a lot smoother, like glass is in a very good place. These Obsidian Airs are just the best example on a really well-balanced, around 60-gram mouse. I mean, this is stupidly fast. It's way too fast for me to use, which is why I have to like add elements of control to use a pad like the Beast, which at that point I just don't really care to use when I have an arsenal of mouse pads at my disposal that just play more how I want them to. But I could see if you want just the lowest surface friction, you play a tracking heavy game, how that could be something attractive to you. So yeah, I do understand how somebody could be bought into glass and just prefer this experience. I feel like I came out of my experiment with a more objective outlook. I know some people are going to see this and be like, you're not objective at all. To each their own. Now I'm going to talk about mouse skates that I use the most. And surprisingly, I think, compared to most glass users, I'm actually fine with like PTFE stock skates because they do provide good control. I just feel like it's a best of both worlds. I also use the Jade Donuts from X-Ray Pad a lot. These are some of the most underrated skates, period. Unfortunately for X-Soft pads, it doesn't feel too good. I mean, I put time onto dozens of skates, but I also tested the Obsidians, which are pretty popular both in dot form on my Zowie U2 and donut form on my Maya X, but this was just one of those cases where it was too fast, the mouse was too light, and just in general, I found the experience somewhat uncontrollable on glass. But I did find the dot version to work very well, definitely added some element of like, not texture, but just stopping power and dynamic friction compared to the fastest skates on the market. So I know some people are convinced like glass mouse pads make you actively aim more, you have to be more cognizant of like every motion, and this ultimately rapidly improves your mouse control. It's probably placebo, but when I did switch back to cloth, I did feel like I was aiming pretty well. So there might be some validity to that, or I might just feel more at home on cloth pads. And while we may never know a real answer, the way I can like describe a glass pad is it's like you're playing on a controller with a lower dead zone value. It's just so much more sensitive in all regards. In my opinion, with Fortnite, like mechanics wise, it does kind of feel like you're on a lower ping. But I don't feel like there's that much higher of a skill gap, for example, or I played that much better. It's really weird. Like the first 3 days of my experiment, like every day I was getting more comfortable with glass, and then from there it was like I just plateaued. Like, okay, that's just how I experience glass pads. All of this has been very subjective. I know people are going to be like, why didn't you test Cyclones, like a million other skates? I did put a little bit of time on a lot of different skates, but the thing is, I actually play games, and I don't lie to you guys, which puts me in a very difficult place as a reviewer. So I could just swipe all sorts of skates across this pad and kind of just like feel it out, but I'm just going off of what I actually used, quote-unquote, extensively. And yeah, there's going to be no like official roundup. This video's gone on too long, and I didn't even cover everything I want to, probably. If you guys have any other questions about glass pads and whatnot, let me know below. But I genuinely appreciate cloth pads so much more now that I'm allowed to use them again. So I am thankful I did this. I learned a lot about glass. I'm able to appreciate some of these newer pads, like your arm doesn't stick to the surface, dust doesn't accumulate on the surface at a frequency anywhere close to what it used to. I mean, I do have like 20 mice on my desk, and I just randomly pick something up. Sometimes it has dust on the skate. This is an issue not many people have. So yeah, I think glass pads are pretty good. The SkyPad 4.0 is probably the go-to option, especially when it's on some type of a sale. But yeah, all of the like premium good glass pads are just kind of trying to be the same thing, and there's just not a lot of variance in terms of like the surfaces and the way like textures perform on your mouse skates at the current moment. I'm open to testing more out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, which you should have enjoyed this video, especially if you're still watching it. And yeah, that's going to be all. Peace out. I will do a roundup at a separate date.